Hello, hello. Let's go. Take a breath. We're in business.
We are in business.
Welcome back, pink people.
Welcome back.
It's been a minute.
It really has.
It has been a minute.
Let's try to explain our hiatus. Just a lot of transitions in life. Like a lot. Like Hallie's moved twice. I've moved. We both got new jobs. Mental health. What can I say?
Mental health, emotional health, physical health, social health. Bam, 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 bam.
Yeah, but
Just a lot of motion in our lives, but
a ton of motion. But we are in the same place, like geographically.
yes,
In the same place, which
we
is
live
fun.
in the same city now.
Yeah. So
we're about to get litty now.
we
still looking pretty now.
All right, Drake. Zesty Drake, though.
Sydney did introduce me to the topic of zesty Drake in a
Yeah.
Taco Bell parking lot.
Wow, I could really go for a Dr. Pepper right now.
I could go for a chicken quesadilla, but what we're really going to go for is a whole new series starting right now.
We are switching from a season format to a series format.
Yes.
Super exciting. So last season, we had a whole bunch of different topics and we decided, hey, we could probably dive deeper into these topics and create more specific series that are subtopics of those topics we introduced. So
Precisely.
now we have a series format. And the first series is
Subjective living. So we did an entire episode last season about objective living versus subjective living. Would you care to give them the rundown, or would you like me to?
What do you want?
I want what you want.
Stop flirting with me.
Oh my god. But you're so beautiful.
I will say that this is where we got the raft versus yacht analogy.
Yes.
And we just ran with it. We really just ran with it.
We ran with it. That was in the first couple episodes, right?
That was like the second episode, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
And I remember the moment that we came across that analogy, we were hyped. And
Yeah.
we were like, there's a lot here.
Yeah. There
So
it is.
we're excited to dedicate an entire series.
Yeah, 6 episodes.
6 episodes to breaking this topic out even more.
And what's crazy is that we could even break it up even more. We kind of just chose the topics that are relevant to us being in our mid-20s.
Definitely encourage you to go back and listen to that episode.
Mhm.
But we'll also give you a quick summary so that if you don't, you're caught up. Main idea here is that there's this concept that we call objective living, which is essentially a bunch of messages that have been told to us, sold to us about how to live, why to live, what to think, who to be, how to dress, what to listen to, what to eat, just objective rules or best practices for how to do life that don't serve us, honestly, when it comes down to it, and how many areas of life we are being taught to live and do and be objectively, as opposed to subjectively in customized, personalized ways that work for us. And so in that episode, we explored an analogy that helps us understand how maybe flashy or how nice the objective living looks, but how often it's very empty.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sit right with our soul. Do you want to get into that analogy, or do you think
I think we should skip the analogy. Just know that there's an entire episode dedicated to it, and highly recommend before diving into the series, go back and listen to it because it's going to help a lot. It's going to help a lot.
It will color in pink everything we're about to talk about. Since that episode, we have lived the promises of subjective living.
Yeah.
And now we figure it's time to do an entire series about it.
Yeah.
Yep. So this series is all about subjective living and applying subjective rules, expectations, strategies, success metrics to the way we live individually.
Yes.
And as a community of pink people. The thing about subjective living is that it applies to so many aspects of our life, and a lot of those aspects are sneaky or shocking
Mm-hmm.
to find out. It could have anything to do with that. Areas we may not even realize that an objective standard of living is being sold to us. And one of those areas that we found shocking is community.
Oh, yes.
You think community is a matter of meet people you like, meet people you have things in common with, hang out with them. There is definitely an objective being sold to us. So when we say objective way of, doing community, I'm talking about what your community should look like, best case scenario, how it should function, what you should aspire to community-wise, what you should stay away from, how communities should form, why they should form, how to participate in it, how to manage it, what to expect from it, and so on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rules.
So many rules. I feel like there are even rules that we're not even aware of. Like, it just goes on and 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 on.
It does. And there is, when you really step back, there's a stark contrast between communities formed through objective living standards versus subjective living, a stark contrast between what those communities look like, how they feel to be a part of them, just extreme contrast.
Yeah.
And we're at a point now where we've lived both, hence why we feel prepared to come discuss the subject.
Yes.
Not the masters of, but the livers of.
Yeah.
Not livers, that's a gross word. The practicers of this other option.
Yes. I also just want to add as a disclaimer, and we say this in all our previous episodes too, like, these are still things that we're working on. It's not like we're like, yeah, we're great now, get up on that. You know what I mean? It's like, no, like, we're human. Sometimes we slip up. It's a constant like dialogue that we have with ourselves. So we're not coming to you preaching on our soapbox. We're in the crowd with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've said this before on this podcast, but my high school principal always used to say to us, the person who got 100% on the test is not the only person in a position to teach.
Oh.
Because the person who got a 50 on the test has a lot to teach the person who got a 0.
Yeah.
We're not getting 100 on the test, but we're still in a position to teach.
Yeah.
Right? Or at least share.
Yes.
Minimally.
Yes.
Minimally. So let's talk about objective living X community.
Ooh.
You ready? I mean, maybe.
Maybe.
Okay. Before we had the idea to turn this into a series, we would just talk at length about these subjects.
Yeah.
And we started to note a couple trends about what it's like doing community objectively.
Yes.
And we noticed that there are 3 main things that us both, individually, whatever, we're focused on when doing community objectively. And the first one was the optics.
Yeah.
Any initial reactions to that word?
Short answer, no.
Okay.
But like, there's like...
Long answer, yes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What do we mean when we say the optics?
So by optics, we mean like what people perceive, what are like a stranger could perceive. Someone who does not know you at all, what they could perceive by looking at the people you affiliate with, the conclusions or the judgments that they can make, visuals. Like, yeah.
Yes. Sydney and I are very different.
Are we?
We're very the same. We're very similar and very different.
Yeah.
But when it comes to these topics, they all apply to both of us, but in very different ways. So we cover more ground is what I'm trying to get at here.
Yeah.
We were both focused on optics in a past life. Well, in a current life. In the same lifetime, just a different chapter.
Yeah.
Okay. But we were focused on optics differently.
Yes.
We did both go to business school, so we'll throw in one business concept. Brand equity. Remember this?
Oh my God, yeah.
So the idea of brand equity in business is that if you are a brand with less, I don't know, clout.
Yeah.
You can partner with a brand with a lot of credibility and followers, and you can borrow their credibility and followers and all of that stuff by partnering with them.
What would be like an example that we could give? Like when an influencer collaborates with like a makeup brand.
Yeah, so you do business with them, and if everyone trusts them, by proxy, they now kind of trust you, right?
I know. Interestingly enough, a collaboration that just came out was Cardi B and Offset x McDonald's for Valentine's Day. There we go.
Okay, but those are 2 huge.
No, yeah.
But they're borrowing kind of weird brand equity from each other.
Yeah, no, but like,
interesting. Yeah. Okay, but let's say for example, like that streetwear what's that show? The Hype?
Oh, yeah.
So all of those new designers who are now connected with people like Offset,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah, because they get the cosign.
They
Yeah.
exactly get the cosign. So you're like, okay, Offset cosigned you, people will cosign you. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it's like you're borrowing credibility or trustworthiness or coolness or whatever.
Yeah.
That's a lot of what we were doing and what people do when it comes to optics in their community.
Yep.
You're aligning yourself strategically, maybe not consciously, but strategically with people for the purpose of borrowing one of their qualities,
Yeah.
right? Like aligning with people hotter than you to borrow their
Yeah.
hotness, and I'll tell you about that. But
No.
aligning with people smarter than you, cooler than you, more relevant than
Yeah.
you, next to someone you want to get next to, like things like that.
Yeah.
Unconsciously often.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be some big city slicker who's trying to make it in Hollywood to be doing these things. You can do this in your own dumb little hometown
I was doing this in middle school.
with a bunch of fucking losers.
Yes.
So was I.
Yeah.
Yeah, so was I. So you talked about, when we first got into this, you talked about this mindset that this person will look good on my team or
Yeah.
this person will look good on my roster. Could you tell us about those, please?
Yeah.
Reluctantly?
Yeah. 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 So I feel like growing up, I kind of developed the awareness that maybe me standing on my own wasn't as valuable as standing with others. And by standing, I mean just like affiliating with others. And so when I got to college, this is really interesting. At the college we went to, which was super small, the minority population was even smaller. My class kind of like broke up into cliques, which was really weird. You'd get this person on your clique or like in your little squad because
like a draft.
Exactly. Like you'd get this person within your friend group because they had connections with seniors or like, you know what I mean? Like doing little things
Yes.
like that so that like together we had clout.
So that you were stacked.
Exactly.
You were literally trying to stack a team. And see, on my side, it's similar. Well, actually, no, it's dead different, which is fine. I mean, it goes back to my point.
Listen, it's like a known thing that like my class at
Your
our
class
school
was goofy. Let's be honest.
No, they were goofy, but it was just like all the other classes would like call out and be like, "Why the fuck do you guys do that?" And I'm like,
yeah, the way you guys organized was like kind of silly.
It was just weird.
It was
weird.
weird.
Like we were like separating the minorities amongst the minorities, and it was like,
yeah,
this is kind of counterintuitive, but
it got interesting.
Yeah.
On my end, my best example of this started when I was way too young to even be considering this. And that's why I'm saying a lot of it is not conscious. I had messages coming my way my entire life that my little sister was more attractive than me, right? Because she was skinnier. She was more Puerto Rican presenting, quote unquote, whatever the fuck that means. You know what I mean? There were a lot of things. She was taller, she was skinnier, she was whatever. I got those messages constantly. And so I remember being in second grade and having an understanding already that my sister, who's probably 5 at that time.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, right? That's absolutely crazy. I remember aligning myself with the girls in 5th grade that resembled my sister the most. And she was in first grade? Like, that's wild that I had a concept of that early on.
Yeah.
Right? And then I did that for as long as I could remember. I go to college, and I can't say this was in my motivation for who I was connecting with right away, but the two people that I connected with most, one was like this beautiful Jamaican woman from Kingston.
Mm-hmm.
Another one was like this beautiful Mexican woman who was a twin.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, thank God that I connected with hot friends. I remember that feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking I am aligning myself with desirability and it will rub off on me.
Yeah.
I've had mindsets like that for a long time.
You know, it's wild. I did the same thing in high school too. Like, I wasn't cool in my grade, but I could align with people who were cool in the grades younger than like below me. So it's like when I was like a junior, senior, I was hanging out with people, and same thing, I was hanging out with people above me who were cooler, or like in grades above me that were like considered cooler. And like that also helped me kind of like gain social equity. And so I always kind of felt the need to like go through with clique and be like, yeah, well, I hang out with them. So if you're saying I'm weird, you're saying they're weird. and that's not okay. Granted, it's like I do value those friendships still. Like, they weren't all equity based, but like, or like brand equity based, but like that was really the motivation for them.
Yeah. So that's the optics.
Yeah.
We have a million examples of that, but we'll move on.
Yeah.
Another thing that motivated us were aspirations.
Yeah.
Okay. And when we say aspirations, we mean like these unattainable relationships or like celebrity status amongst people. So, examples for me, right? I wanted a really hot creative boyfriend. Still do.
If you are one, or if you know one, hit us up.
But I was like, I thought a hot creative boyfriend will communicate to other people that these things about me that society deems fatal flaws are not fatal enough that I can't attract a hot creative boyfriend. I also, this one repulses me. My childhood memories like hurt so bad when I think about this stuff. But
so bad.
There were these 3 sisters in my town growing up, and I want to name drop them. Like, none of them are looking at my shit, but honestly, I'm not going to. But
I have their names if you want to know. Let me know.
Stop. Fuck you.
Schenectady, let me know.
Shut the fuck up. Okay, anyway, so they were just iconic.
Yeah.
They were beautiful. They were in different ways. They were talented in different ways. They were perfectly spaced, that they had like a grip on middle school and high school, the whole thing at the same time. And I remember, this is so embarrassing. Like, I can't believe how many of these things we reveal. I remember as the older sister being in middle school, sitting there talking to my younger sister who was in elementary school and trying to get her jazzed around my mission to run these girls out of town and be the new top dogs. That's so fucking embarrassing, dude. But I had these wild aspirations.
Yeah.
I mean, I was hustling for, I don't know. I don't fucking know. I know that you've aspired to some things. You want to tell us a few of your aspirations?
Oh, yeah. 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 Episode 7 kind of comes to mind just a little bit.
Okay. Let's hear it. There was some pain in that laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of my aspirations or aspirational connections in my community looked like the upperclassmen that like you thought was like really cute, you know. I remember in high school, this is so embarrassing. Me and my group of friends had this list of all the upperclassmen that we thought were like super fine. They're not super fine. The list was called the coded list. So anytime we would see them in high school, we'd be like, code. And like, yeah. And so, but you know what I mean? Like, just having like that like upperclassman that you think is like so fine, and like everyone's like, oh my God, I want him. And then you get him. And it's just like, yeah, buddy. It's just like, all right, okay, all right. Like, I have him. So because I got him, that automatically improves my quality as a person. That improves my desirability.
My worthiness goes way up.
Yeah, exactly.
All the problems in my life are fixed.
Exactly. Like, if I am a character that you can select on a video game, all my bars way up.
Yeah,
way up.
At least that's what we tell ourselves. Well, told ourselves. Yeah, I mean, I think the main idea here is that there's like a certain exclusivity that we try to achieve through our aspirations, whether it be aligning with exclusive people or being the exclusive people.
Yeah.
And it's so not necessary or healthy, because sometimes it's a concept that's tricky for people. I've talked to a few people about it and it's kind of hard to grasp. But one thing that has helped is like when you think about the concept of like applying for college and they tell you to have safety schools and reach schools. In my mind, I had reach relationships.
Crazy.
Right? And like those were people I aspired to get next to. Or like, I don't know, like a reach version of myself.
Yeah.
And not like, well, I hope to improve myself and reach that. It's not, oh, I have goals or life goals or I'm networking. It's a different situation.
Yeah. Like, it's like social equity, social capital.
Yes. And you also think you're more valuable if you attain those aspirations, you know? Okay, so we were motivated by optics. We were motivated by aspirations. And the third one is utility.
I could talk about this one all day.
Yeah. And it's okay to align with people because you meet each other's needs.
Mm-hmm.
So listen a little deeper, because that's not what we're saying here.
Yeah.
Give us some examples of aligning with people for the sake of utility.
For me, a lot of my trauma is based around my racial identity, but we knew this. We knew this. And
Same.
like it's tough. It's tough out here. Like I grew up in an all-white town. Like I can literally there was probably like 5 black kids at my high school, including me. Like there wasn't that many. And when I got to college, even though like I was always looked at as like Sydney's black, you know what I mean, in high school, when I got to college, it was like, oh, well, she's sort of black, or that's how I felt, you know. And I mean, I definitely had some experiences that like reinforced people didn't really see me as black, but whatever. And so I found myself like prioritizing friendships with other black women to like reinforce my identity as a black woman. If a person was white, it's like, okay, like they could be like a colleague or something like that, but like they're not going to be like one of my best friends. Like they could be a roommate, they could be this, they could be that, but they were not one of my core friends. And so, yeah, that was just an example of how I built my community based on utility to validate an insecurity or a belief that I had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you know, I do think there's an aspect of that that's fair.
Yeah.
Honestly, like as a plus size woman, I align myself with other plus size women for validation and support, you know? So I think there's a huge aspect of that that's extremely fair.
Yeah, that's true.
I think there are maybe better examples of where it's actually harmful to be doing that. You know what I mean? I just want to call that out because I actually do think that's really fair.
I think that, yes, thank you. Thank you for validating that because that is fair. But I think where it was dangerous was kind of like not allowing myself to be open to other friendships and staying in friendships that were lower quality.
Absolutely.
For the sake of validating a belief that I had and validating an insecurity.
Totally. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep. I can see the harm in that. The first utility for me was like, I was someone who just chaos all the time. And it's funny because to the outside eye, no, but like, yes, you know what I mean? I'm not like that anymore. Thank God I've shed the majority of my chaos, but I would entertain so many people, so many relationships. I was so like overextending myself socially because it provided a beautiful stream of constant distraction from myself.
Yeah.
From my inner world that was eating me the fuck up. A lot of my connections were just about that utility. I also did the same thing as you, where I put a lot of weight and a lot of effort into pursuing relationships with Latinos.
Yeah.
One in particular, this one friend of mine who I love so dearly, Julie, she's a Dominican woman. She was a grade above me. And she was the person out of everyone that really validated my identity, that it was okay for me to hold that identity or it was okay for me to even acknowledge it. Like, obviously I do hold it. It's in my DNA, you know what I mean? But I was allowed to speak about it. And I remember spending so many hours as a freshman in her dorm in secrecy, literally studying, her teaching me things that people will quiz me on to validate whether or not I deserve a seat at the table.
That's wild.
And it wasn't like, oh, she was teaching me things about the culture. It was like she knew that people would quiz me because they did constantly.
Yeah.
And she was helping me study. And I'm like, that's wild. You know what I mean?
Julie's a real one.
Julie's a real and granted, my relationship with her was not about that type of utility.
Yeah.
But she helped me prepare for all the other relationships that I was active in.
Yeah.
That I only wanted to prove that to myself and other people. A couple other things that we had talked about. We would be friends with certain people to prove that you're someone people want to be friends with.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Once again, just grew up feeling very down on myself, very insecure, you know? Yeah. And there were, once again, like reach friendships that I had that necessarily weren't like the most popular people, but were affiliated with those popular people that like, okay, if they're friends with me, I get that cosign. And I'm cool enough to hang around, which means that I can hang around other people. I can start like declining. Like, I don't want to hang out with you because I'm desirable now, which is wild.
Moral of the story here is that if you are doing community in an objective way, and chances are you are, unless you've become aware that you are and worked your way out of it, right? Both of us had to go through that process. then you're probably focused on optics.
Yeah.
Probably focused on utility in some way.
Yeah.
Probably focused on aspirations in some way. And while some of those things are effective at putting you next to people or whatever, there's a dangerous inverse of all of these strategies.
Yep.
To summarize, if I'm focused on the optics, what do I think of myself when the optics are poor?
I feel terrible.
If I'm focused on the aspirations, I never achieve any of them. How do I feel about myself? Terrible, right? Shame comes in, lays itself on thick, hot, and heavy. It is
like police at the door,
awful.
battering the door down. Yes,
it is awful. And shame has wild consequences. It makes us do wild things.
No, absolutely wild.
And then we have an even deeper shame response to the shame-driven things we just did.
You know what we call that, kids? A shame spiral.
Yeah, exactly. I have one example of this that is, again, embarrassing and like actually with a heavy heart. I share this example.
Okay.
I had a friend, a really good friend growing up, still my friend. There were a couple things we had in common, our chubbiness and our whiteness. And I was ashamed of both of those things. And this was a really good friend of mine who was really loving and consistent and proud of me. And I went to college and she always wanted to visit me and I never let her visit me for those reasons. It's like so sad for me to say that out loud, you know, but it's true. That the things that I was hustling to get away from, the things that I was like trying really hard to, like I was trying to control the optics and I was trying to aspire to be someone perceived as something other than chubby and white.
Yeah.
And so I thought bringing this friend of mine, regardless of the values she offers to me in our friendship, bringing her there overrides all the work I've done to distance myself from chubbiness and whiteness.
Yeah.
That sucks. That's all shame motivated. And I definitely spiraled about that for a long time.
Well, then too, it like that behavior, regardless of the shame that it provokes within yourself, it keeps you in a spiral. Like it's unattainable to do that, because it's like when you're consciously or unconsciously are choosing against things that feel good and validate you and like do things for your soul rather than your ego, like it just piles and it piles and piles and it piles, and then like at some point you're fucking running around in circles and you're like, I don't know where the fuck I am, I just got lost. And it's like, well, you didn't really go anywhere, you were just doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. You just kind of like dug yourself deeper and deeper and deeper into that behavior, and it's like it's hard to like come out of that and like instantly start making different choices.
And one thing that can bring you out of that is connection. But unfortunately, we've aligned with a bunch of fucking people based on optics, aspirations, and utility, and not true mutual benefit and, you know, true, honest, authentic connection, you know?
Yeah.
It's just trouble all around. Objective living, X community is fucking trouble all around.
Yeah.
Period. So how do we move towards subjective living when it comes to community? How do we make the transition? There's a lot of ways.
Yes.
A lot of things. And this is one of those examples where we could give you a list of rules. In fact, like we will. It's loose and it's not really structured, but the best thing we can do is talk about our experiences on the other side of the line.
Yeah.
So how do we move towards subjective living? We acquire the knowledge.
Yes.
Which you're doing right now. Congrats.
Yay, congratulations. And knowledge could also come as life experience like it has for us.
Books, whatever you got to do. We create the desire within ourselves to move towards subjective living. And honestly, I think we'll do a good job selling you on it. So don't worry about that one.
Yeah.
We practice the willingness to do community subjectively. We deprioritize and decenter the optics.
Any progress you can make when it comes to decentering and deprioritizing the optics goes a long fucking way.
Yeah. And maybe we can create some tools for people, like an audit that you could do or something to help with that, you know. We also explore better forms of utility. So what are some other reasons to connect with people or other better exchanges of value? But we'll get into that. Retire your old aspirations.
Put them in a box, put them in a closet.
Identify them first.
Send them to Iron Mountain. Get rid of them.
What is Iron Mountain?
Oh, Iron Man. So I used to work in document control.
That is so exciting.
In Iron
That'll
Mountain.
be good to talk about in the career episode.
Yes. It is a legitimate mountain. Like, it's built into a mountain in Pennsylvania. And it's like something crazy, like underground, like I don't know, like built into a mountain. Like, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But like basically like all these like super important documents exist in this one location in Pennsylvania. So yeah,
Send them to Iron Mountain.
Send them to Iron Mountain.
You heard it here. Okay. Yeah. So retire your old aspirations, send them to Iron Mountain. Choose community subjectively, participate in community subjectively, manage community subjectively.
And by subjectively, according to you, your personal values, your personal beliefs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll get into how to do that more.
Yes.
But you are already choosing community, participating in community, and managing community. Just doing it objectively. So just making that shift in those main areas, right? Okay, so our ultimate goal, and we're going to get into how we've transitioned to subjective living and how our communities look different. But the ultimate goal would be to create a portfolio of relationships that have unique rules, unique tools, unique traditions, unique roles, unique expectations, unique systems, like management systems.
Yeah.
And this is something we've identified we could probably do a whole additional episode on. So maybe if there's enough interest, we will.
Yeah.
But
can we give a few like examples? Let's talk about our friendship. And we could definitely go into this if you guys want to go into this.
Okay.
But like, I feel like we approach our friendship much differently than we've approached other friendships in the past and either other friendships that are currently in our life. Like, I feel like we're able to be very transparent and like, hey, I need to take a step back, or like, I might not be responding. And while some people can take offense to that, we're like, okay, cool. Like, we know. We have this thing called the panic button, which like basically if we're nervous to tell each other something, or like we're panicking
in the moment about your perception of what I said, or I'm nervous to talk about something. Yeah.
We just say, hey, panic button. And like automatically it like creates a very like neutralized zone and almost like prepares like, okay, like I know that this person's panicking. Let me take my defenses down. Let me be more present with them. Let me make sure that this person, well, I'm saying this person, it's Hallie.
It's me.
Yeah. Like, let's make sure that like we come out of this knowing like what we value and what's effective in this situation.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a really great example of how we've created community objectively, because I could not do this.
Subjectively,
bitch.
Bro, don't lie to them.
Bro, I can't even lie. I'm so tired right now just from life. But yeah, like I think we just do things that I haven't done in previous friendships, relationships, and because we're doing these things, it now creates a standard that I have across all my friendships.
Yes.
And if you can't reach that standard, you might be demoted.
Get out of here.
You might be sent to Iron Mountain, you know.
Don't send me there. But yeah, that's a perfect example, honestly. And that is what a subjective friendship looks like. We've built tools and systems and things into place to manage our unique dynamics and needs and compatibilities, incompatibilities, all of that stuff.
And I can say this is definitely one of my most cherished friendships in life, for sure. But like, I don't know, like it's just like I've gotten more out of this friendship than other objectively defined friendships in the past.
Same.
So yeah,
absolutely same. And I agree that this friendship has been a experimentation place for us, and it has set the precedent in many of my other relationships as well.
Yeah.
And new relationships, I use every tool that we created together because they work.
Yeah.
They genuinely work.
I love you, bitch.
I love you, bitch. I ain't never gonna fuck.
I'm a fucking cinnamon apple.
But yeah, as a result of doing those things, and that's just one example, and we'll get into some more information, but as a result of that, we both now have much more diverse, colorful, intriguing, charming, healthy relationships that make up our community.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. I was going to make a smooth brain analogy, but
go for it.
Okay. I feel like right now, the work that I've been doing subjectively in life, specifically around community, if you look at it at the surface, you're probably like, okay, it's just a regular friend group. But once you start going into the grooves, the inner workings, you start to see how exactly, you start to see how unique it is, and like all these little details that like objectively you're not going to see. You're really just not going to see. But I feel it, and that's all that matters.
That is what matters.
Per.
See? That's your job, honestly. I say it only when I feel it should have been said and you didn't do it.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. There's a really crazy analogy that I read about.
Yeah.
And like I would explain this to every living person that would listen to it.
Yeah.
If I could.
Yeah.
But I ordered this magazine called Grow Magazine. It's just absolutely brilliant science related topics. And there's this one concept that they talk about called intercropping. The main idea here is that if you grew up in the United States, in this very capitalist society, you probably think of farms and crops as all one vegetable planted in a bunch of lines, and then you move to the next section, it's a new vegetable in a new line.
Yeah.
I never considered planting in any other way.
Yeah.
That's my entire context for how farming is done, right? But they're talking about this thing called intercropping, and of course indigenous people have figured this out and like followed way better, more effective rules about how to do life, honestly.
Well, yeah.
How to do everything.
Colonizers, man, like what the fuck?
Right. They use this concept called intercropping, where they would plant the three sisters, that's what they're called, beans, corn, and squash.
Yeah.
They would plant them all together on top of each other, plant all their seeds in the same dirt. They each provided unique benefits to the others, and maybe between the two of us we can remember them. But
I can remember it.
Okay.
It was like,
tell us, yeah.
Okay, so like the corn provided the structure for the beans
to grow tall.
Yeah, to grow tall and strong.
One of them released a chemical into the ground that fertilized.
So I think it was the beans that released the chemical or whatever, like the nutrient for the corn, so it could continue growing. So then the beans could keep growing up the thing.
Okay, and then the squash grew low.
Yeah.
Which prevented pests
animals,
or something.
Yes,
exactly. Yeah. So there was this immense, like, what's that thing they say in the fucking business world? 1 + 1 = 3. 2 + 2 = 5. That concept.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? We're like
added value,
additive something or fucking other. I don't know, bro. But
two corporate girls. Don't show our bosses.
Show mine. I don't give a fuck.
Actually, you can show mine. She's pretty cool.
Mine's excited about this podcast, to be honest.
I'm not telling mine about this.
Anyway,
nothing against her. I just
right? Yeah.
I get in trouble enough.
You and your smooth brain at work. No, I'm just kidding. So the main idea here is that these three crops were intercropped, planted all together because they each offered unique value to the other, and the three of them had this rhythm and this, I don't know, they were all juxtaposed in this brilliantly effective way. So much more value than just being planted with your own kind. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So this is an analogy that had us asking, who should I be planted with?
Yeah.
And why?
Yeah.
If I'm a corn, and I'm not, I'm a cauliflower. If I'm a cauliflower, I should not only be planted in very standard rows amongst my cauliflowers. You know, I should be intercropped, planted with other people. And why? Right? That's a question. I don't know. That hits me so hard.
I think that's a brilliant analogy. Like, going back to utility, I think, and actually I was watching After the Altar earlier today, and I think there's this, I need you to watch it because there's a very specific part that like ties into this episode really well.
Okay. I'll work on it.
But like, we were adding to our community based on utility of like, what are people going to perceive me as? Like, almost kind of relating back to optics, relating back to opportunities, looking at it more as like a networking standpoint, right? Versus now, the intercropping analogy kind of shows that there's value in having utility in your friendships, but like a different type of utility. Like,
exactly.
I'm reading this book. Basically, the author is talking about how she met a lawyer, like a female lawyer that she thought was brilliant, and like knew that she wanted to be around her because she wanted to learn from her and she wanted to like grow with her and like do all these things with her. And so she strategically chose that person or built a friendship with that person so that she could benefit from it, but not in like a this looks good for me type of way, but in a way of like mutually beneficial. I don't know if yeah.
So that person understood the unique utility in being cropped or planted
Yeah.
with a lawyer, and not just because I get reduced legal fees.
Yeah.
And not just because they look good or they dress good and it makes me look good. It was entirely different.
Or not
It's
just
almost
like I could get into like this event. Like, no, like it was
Yeah.
like, this is a friendship I want to sustain and I want to build.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. To answer the question, who should I be planted with and why? We've noticed that the relationships that are particularly fruitful for both of us take on one of a few specific forms.
Yes.
And so we've built out these archetypes of relationships. And that's not to say that you have to have these relationships or that you shouldn't have anything outside of this, but these are ones that we have pinpointed as particularly fruitful for us now that we're on the other side of the line doing subjective living. Okay. The first one, so exciting. The co-parent.
The co-parent. We have an episode.
Yes, we do.
On re-raising your inner child.
Yes.
Highly suggest listening to that because it ties into this relationship archetype.
And the main idea here is we have to re-raise ourselves in our 20s or whatever age you catch on that you have to do that.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to be a single parent.
Yeah.
As you're re-raising yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so there are certain people who meet the criteria to be entrusted enough to co-parent your inner child with you.
Yes.
And for me, and well, for both of us, it's a lot of the people we already trusted to be our mentors.
Yeah.
But we've also identified there are certain friendships that are strategic enough, safe enough, healthy enough, collaborative enough to be spaces where we can co-parent our inner children.
Yeah.
I mean, you are a co-parent of my inner child.
Same.
Vice versa.
Vice.
So the co-parent is a really valuable relationship and not nearly everyone can make the cut.
Yeah, no, because
Second archetype, adults who represent safety and love.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, I don't have a relationship with my parents, but I have adults in my life who have more resources than me and just want to give.
Yeah.
They just want to help me feel safe, feel resourced, and feel loved. They don't want shit back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I used to reject those types of connections. And now I recognize it's cyclical.
Yeah.
I will be an adult who represents safety, resources, and love for younger people. In fact, I already am.
Yeah.
Honestly. And that's a relationship I'm allowed to have.
Yeah. Because think about it. Like when we were little kids, we used to have like, I don't know, like I had like uncles and aunties that weren't really my uncles and aunties, but like would love to spoil me, like would love to like give me things and stuff like that. And it's like, why does that have to change when we become adults? Especially in our mid-20s, in our 20s period. Yeah, that doesn't have to change because let me tell you, this shit is ghetto. This shit is ghetto. Take all the help you can get.
Right. The next archetype, fun and or educational peers, right? People who just add recreational value and connection to our lives.
Yeah.
Right? No harm is being done. We're just deriving joy and connection from each other.
Super good vibes.
Those are easy friendships.
Yeah.
Easy connections.
Yeah.
That maybe you're not investing the world into.
Yeah.
But keep them in your portfolio.
Yeah.
Contribute to their portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth it, you know? And then the other one that we had was people that we can be that resourceful adult to. It's interesting because we both have a niece at this point. I was a teacher. I have younger kids around me in my life still. It's amazing how much people in those positions actually fill out your portfolio of community members. It's amazing, you know?
Yeah. If I may, I think when talking about the archetypes, right? These different relationship archetypes, obviously there are more. I think it's helpful to think about who do you want to show up as? How do you want to show up? See if you have relationships that align to that. You know what I mean? Like for my niece, I love being that adult that she can come to. Like I love being that safe space for her. And it's like that to me represents like just wisdom and like genuine loving and wanting to give. And so it's like I'm glad that I have that relationship. But like if you don't have that relationship and that's something that you aspire to, okay, like see if they're like become a mentor, go to like volunteer at like the Boys and Girls Club or something like that. You know what I mean? But like
absolutely.
I think it goes to figuring out who you want to be, like what your higher self looks like, and breaking down how you can show up as that person. And I think a really big part of however you want to show up is your relationships. I mean, what's that quote? Like, you're some of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Mm-hmm.
I think it applies.
Yes, and you don't have to be the same person to everyone.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
This was an interesting exercise for me to look at these archetypes and think about who I have around me and who I am to people.
Yeah.
Because best case scenario for some of these relationships is that we stop at fun educational peers.
Yeah.
I know that there's some people who would consider me a co-parent to their inner child, and we've never talked about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
That's a great accomplishment that we've created that much safety between us. I just think there's real value in stocking up on relationships like this.
Yeah.
And being aware the role people play in your life and the role you play in theirs.
Well, we were talking about this yesterday too. Like, not every single person in your community has to be this like deep connection. Like, that, you know what I mean? Like, it's okay to have people in your circle that you just have fun with. We're humans. We're meant to experience joy. Like, joy is the highest vibrational emotion that we could have. Like, it's okay that like you have a friend that you just go and grab pizza with and that's it. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to have those what might seem like more surface level relationships, but they're not, because they're doing things for your soul. So yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why we call it a portfolio. And
Yes.
and it's very business school of us, but diversify your portfolio, bitch.
Fuck yes.
The one that we want to dive into deeply though is co-parents.
Yes.
Because these are the heavy hitter relationships that we're mostly talking about.
Yes.
Being in our 20s and having to make decisions about, you know,
Yeah.
just these are the heavy hitter ones. And we want to get into these. So tell us about co-parents. What do you think? What are some of the questions you ask yourself, or how do you analyze who made the cut? What's the criteria? You can answer any of the 15 questions I just asked you.
When I'm thinking of someone who I want to help me with co-parenting my inner child, honestly, I don't go out and seek people like, oh, I'm missing a co-parent. Connections just happen and occur naturally. And then I'm really big on like using emotional indicators.
Which is a word that you need to remember, because we're going to say it in every fucking episode.
Yeah. But I'm really big on emotional indicators. So if I feel really good with someone, like really good with someone, why do I feel good with them? And it's not like a critique thing. It's more of like okay, like what I'm really big too on, like, I have a feelings wheel that I have saved on my phone. So I'll be like, okay, like, how does this person make me feel? And it'll be like happy, sad, safe, whatever. And then it breaks into different emotions and breaks into different emotions. So then I pinpoint that emotion and I'm like, okay, if I feel that emotion, is that something that I was missing in my childhood? Or is that something that benefits me? Is that like a need that I have? And so I really just go based on emotions, and then based on from those emotions kind of exploring and figuring out what they're trying to tell me to do, or what those emotions are telling me.
Yeah, and you've talked to me a lot about this. Like, you pay attention to things like, am I spending a lot of energy preparing to see that?
Yes.
Right? Because that could be an indicator that you had to turn your head away and laugh at that one.
Yeah, like, yeah.
Or like, when I'm next to them, am I protecting myself? Am I performing? Am I preparing myself for my interactions with them?
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean like, oh, reflecting on our most recent conflict and being ready for a conversation.
No, I mean like
we're just gonna hang out and I'm doing prep work.
Yeah.
You know?
And honestly, that is unfortunately something that I have to do pretty often.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another question, and you are really full of good reflection questions on this subject.
Thanks.
You ask, how myself can I be here?
Yeah.
And how dimensional can I be? We talked about this in the past season, like dimensions of ourselves, you know what I mean? And all the places we can't be them, you know? And so, how myself can I be here? How dimensional can I be here? Does anything else come to mind for you about this topic of who do you let be a co-parent, or how do you know someone's a co-parent? Or how do you know someone's not?
I feel like if I have to be the main one who provides structure and everything, I'm not talking about like plans and stuff like that, because I'm an INFJ. I have that down. But like, in terms of like, do I have to set a purpose of what this interaction is about? You know what I mean? Like, I have to lead conversation. I have to lead discussion. That to me is a really great indicator that this is not someone I can co-parent my inner child with, because my my regular child, me as a child, I was leading a lot of this shit. And it's like, that's what got me to where I am right now. And it's like, children are not supposed to be, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah. That sounds to me like camp counselors from our last season. That would be the point at which we apply for divorce.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I'm the sole leader of everything going on,
Yeah.
right? The reason that sticks out to me is because we want our inner child. Like, think of how you want a child to grow up in a happy, peaceful,
Yeah.
constructive, educational, joyful home.
Mm-hmm.
When you and I spend time together, the space, the feeling we create, that's the home that our inner children live in. You feel me on that?
Sure.
So, like, we have to care about those things. We need to have agreements on what this space is going to feel like.
Yeah.
What are the ways that we approach things in this house, in this space? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things for me that promotes people to that position of co-parents, because a lot of people love the glamour of an unintentional relationship that works, but it pales in comparison for me to intentional relationships that work.
Yeah.
Like, I can find glamour and intrigue and charm in other places in our relationship. It doesn't have to be that on accident it worked out.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I think that kind of correlates back to like the added value that we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Where like when you can be intentional with someone in creating a relationship, there's trust there. There's respect there, you know, there's safety, like there's all of these things that it's just compared to someone like, oh, I'm just vibing with them, you know, like you're not, I mean, you're connecting, don't get me wrong, but it's just not as deep of a connection. Like, you're not going to be able to bring your full self. So,
and so in making the transition from objective living in community to subjective living in community, that does mean that you'll acquire new types of relationships, but it also means that you're likely to shed some of the ones that you currently have.
yeah.
And that's hard. It's tricky. It's painful. It's tough. And so we have a few of our big lessons that we can summarize into one-liners that we figured we would just offer as help. Right? Support.
Yeah.
Conflict can be a collaboration and doesn't have to hurt. Tell us about that.
So that's actually a lesson that I learned at school in a management course for interpersonal relationships. My professor was like, yeah, conflict is a really great way to figure out where you and the other party aren't meeting each other's needs. So instead of looking at it as like, yo, I got to fight this person, look at it as like, okay, well, I wasn't understanding this person. This is an opportunity to get closer to this person, to understand this person more, to develop trust, develop a better relationship. And so I'm not saying I look forward to like conflict in my friendships, but when there is conflict in my friendships, I just look at it from a much more graceful and a much more like open perspective. Like, conflict, it doesn't have to hurt. I mean, we had a great moment of collaboration a couple weeks ago where like we were able to feel like instantly closer, and it was like, okay, cool. Like, I don't know, like we just developed more trust, even though I feel like that was hard. Like, there was more trust that, not like hard, I mean like we're already up there. Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah, I think it's just a really nice opportunity to see like all of the work that you've put into a relationship, all the work that you've put into yourself, and all those things, getting to see how it pays off. And seeing it work in real time.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the real kicker to me.
Mm-hmm.
When you've been intentional about how you structure your relationship, about developing unique roles, unique tools, unique rules, unique systems, everything.
Yeah.
In moments of conflict, you get to watch the relationship work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I have chills right now. It's just that has added so much value to my life. That has sustained so many of my relationships, that mindset. And I'm just really grateful that we figured that out.
Yeah.
You know, I really am.
I love you, bitch.
I love you, bitch. A couple other things. We both, I mean, we've talked about it at length.
Yeah.
Together and on the podcast. Just a history of traumatizing relationships, being next to either involuntarily or by aligning with people who've traumatized the fuck out of us, right?
Yeah.
And so we also have our own attachment styles and blah, blah, blah. So there's a trickiness that comes with removing people from your life, right?
Yeah.
And there's a couple distinctions that have helped us a lot.
Mm-hmm.
One is that we often thought about this as, or maybe not we, maybe it's me. I don't know. It's definitely me. You tell me if it's you. I don't know. Disposing of, we thought of this as I'm disposing of people.
Yeah.
I'm abandoning people. When, for me personally, I'm like, I have talked at length with people about my abandonment issues, and then I'm abandoning them. I'm a hypocrite. Like that kind of stuff goes through my mind. And so reframing it as I'm staying committed to relationships in which I'm aligned with people for the right reasons, right?
Yeah.
I'm not aligning with this person anymore, as opposed to I'm abandoning this person and I'm a fucking hypocrite.
Yeah.
Right? That's some language that can help.
There's this clip from Abraham Hicks, which Abraham Hicks is like this entity almost. There's this woman named Esther Hicks, and she channels spirit named Abraham. And very interesting, very wise. But there's this clip that talks about like if your friends aren't vibrationally matching you and they call you out on it, being like, oh, well, you don't want to be friends with me right now, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, I'm rooting for you. I'm just rooting from you from this vibration. And as soon as you can meet me at this vibration, or as soon as we're at the same vibration, we can be friends. You know what I mean? And it's like kind of this thing of like, it's not like I'm leaving you. It's like I still have a lot of love for you. I still want the best for you. It's just at this moment right now, it's just not something I can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that kind of leads into this point. And I remember this was a big aha moment for us.
Yeah.
That extending grace, extending understanding, empathy, humanity is different from extending the offer of continued friendship.
Yeah.
Very different. Very different. So
you hear that? There's a lot of bitches I want to again.
Oh, same. We'll tag you. No, just kidding. I'm kidding.
Let me know if you want.
Honestly, we don't know enough about anyone else to be. I mean, I don't to be tagging people. I'm sitting in my apartment painting my walls daily. I don't know what any of y'all bitches are up to. Honestly,
on TikTok.
So that one was a big one for us.
Yeah,
that there's a huge difference between extending grace and extending friendship.
Yeah,
you do not have to extend continued friendship.
No,
you don't.
No.
And the other one, last one, heavy hitter for us. You can release people who are not actively abusing you. I thought, sorry, does that hit hard for you? Do you want to respond to that first?
No, I'm gonna let you go.
Okay. I was under the impression that you can only release people who've done bad enough things to you.
Mm-hmm.
That if they're fine, they're chilling. We're just not aligned, or there's not a lot of utility here, or neither of us put any effort in and we're not deriving any value. I was under the impression you still have to keep up with those people, that you can't release people unless they're doing bad shit to you.
Yeah.
And I was blown when I figured out that's not the case.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Something too that a lot of people don't understand. A friendship with you is a privilege. Like, just remember that. But like, you don't owe it to everybody to be friends with them. Like same thing with a relationship. I know what I bring to a table. You know what I mean? Like, I know what I can do for a person. I know how I can build with a person. And it's like, I'm not just going to extend that out to anybody. Like, my value is like the price of eggs right now. You know what I mean? Like, you can...
Let's talk about the results of crossing the line. Why are you giggling?
Looking at the first note.
So we have had some pretty surprising results.
Yeah.
As practitioners of subjective living within community.
Yeah. Do you just want me to say what's right there?
Just say it.
Okay.
Also, the way Sydney takes notes is hilarious. And I'm petitioning for screenshots of the shit she writes in our notes because they are wild.
They really are. They're so unhinged.
They are. And like written in the least amount of words possible.
But like, you know what it means.
Straight to the point. And it's just wild. This is if you like this example, it only gets better. But go on.
So I'm gonna read it.
Yep.
Didn't expect to be spending Christmas with white people.
Yeah, tell us about that.
So the first Christmas that Hallie moved back to Boston, I spent it with her and our friend Ginge. I joke that like they're my 1.5 white people because Hallie's half Puerto Rican. And yeah, like, I remember, I think I said it that day. I was like, if you told me a year ago that I'd be spending Christmas with white people from Bentley, I would have been like, yeah, you need to go get checked out or something.
I will never forget that moment. She's unwrapping a present. I think Ginger's leg is probably in her peripheral view, right? And she catches the whiteness. You look up and you're like,
whiteness.
yeah, you look you look up and you're like, I cannot believe I'm spending Christmas with 1.5 fucking white people. I never thought. Subjective living.
Yeah.
Subjective living. In the same sense, I didn't expect to be living with white people.
Yeah.
And I lived with 2 of them for 2 years. That's crazy. Also, we both, well, actually, maybe, I don't know. I definitely did not expect to be passionately disinterested. Oh my God.
You okay?
Yeah, it's soft.
Okay.
I just like shocked myself. I did not expect to be passionately disinterested in Bentley University reunions. I was like Miss Bentley when I was there.
Oh yeah, no, bleeding blue. I said this yesterday. Bleeding blue.
Like the feathers were, I was a falcon, like feathers were coming out of my skin. Like I was, yes.
Yeah.
And I never expected to be disinterested in Bentley reunions.
Yeah.
But I recognize that for me to remain interested in them, like a lot of the reasons I was connected to a lot of the people I was before were the optics, the aspirations, the utility, like all of the things. And I'm like, I'm not so sure I want to be intercropped with you fuckers anymore. Not everyone, but just some,
I mean, granted, I'm always very open to reconnecting with people from college, but like, I'm like, yeah, I feel like the people I want to see, I see. The people I want to talk to, I talk to. And it's like, yeah.
I think open to connection with people you once knew is different than still putting so many eggs in the basket of my old relationships for old reasons. You know what I mean? Your reasons have evolved. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other thing here is when I moved back to Boston, I expected my community to show out. You know what I mean? This was a homecoming for me. We've talked about this a little bit in the last season. And it didn't necessarily go that way. And I knew I have a community need that's not solved, so I went to work at Starbucks. You know the story if you listened to last season. I never expected to be deriving such a large amount of community from fucking 16-year-olds at Starbucks.
Yeah.
But I am.
Yeah, boy. Your haircut's looking crispy like a grilled cheese.
I'm just going to send that clip to him. My stint at Starbucks added so much community to my life. It's wild. My past 2 roommates came from them. I have a beautiful, poetic, romantic, like brilliant pen pal in her 50s who lives in a pink house, by the way. We first connected over her living in a pink house.
So cute.
And I have another friend from Starbucks whose 8-year-old Colombian daughter is struggling to practice her English. She's my other new pen pal. And I derive so much community from both of them. You know, I remember when I lived back in Miami and I was really open to this concept, like before I had the words to describe it, subjective living. One of the people I enjoyed spending time with the most was another woman in her 50s, single, and we would eat cheese and crackers, play dominoes. I would tutor her in Excel spreadsheet. My absolute dream come true. I'm a freak in the sheets. Just kidding. And then she would pay my scooter ride home, which was a half mile on the same exact street, and she would watch me scooter into the distance. And that was like some of the most valuable human interaction in my life.
Yeah.
And I look at my portfolio and I have 8-year-olds and I have 15-year-olds and I have 60-year-olds and I have all over the board. You know what I mean? And it's like, thank God that this concept seeped into my smooth brain.
Created some more ridges in your brain.
Exactly. What are your results? Are there any relationships in particular that would surprise people or impress the crowd or not impress? We don't care to do that, but
Thanks, an introvert.
That's okay. I mean, the number of white people around you is surprising.
Yeah,
1.5. True. It is a lot.
It is a lot if you know me. It really is.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. Like Ginge, never expected.
Left fucking field,
no, like
bro.
literally, like
wild.
We have nothing in common.
Nothing.
Like,
Except
literally
you're
nothing.
both gingers.
Natural, too.
He won't accept it, but yeah.
Yeah. No, we literally have nothing in common. Like, he watches the Super Bowl for football. I watch it for Rihanna. Yeah, I literally have nothing in common with him. But, like, somehow it works. It's just fun. Like, it's just like, we'll call each other during the workday. Be like, yo, this is fucking annoying. Whatever. And it's just like, it's fun. It's fun. So yeah, that's like definitely a testimony to me, because it's just like, people don't know that I'm friends with him. There's no like social equity that I've received from being friends with him. Like, I don't really affiliate myself with like, that's not shade, but it's just like the only people who would really care are people from Bentley, and I don't I don't care, you know.
Yeah. The other people that stand out to me in your life are Bobby K.
Oh my
Mary
God,
Amini and Luna.
Yeah. Luna's my niece. Love Luna. Like, absolutely love her. And she's just someone who like brings me like so much joy in life. Like, I just love her. Absolutely love her. Bobby K is hopefully a guest that we'll have on the podcast at some point, as well as Mary, actually. And they're these people that I met on Clubhouse that have really just helped me elevate my spirituality, and like, I don't know, like they're just people that like I really appreciate in my life, and people who just help me be a better me.
Yeah.
And so yeah, those are definitely, but once again, 2.5 white people.
Yeah. But the thing is, they hold identities that like specifically around age.
Yeah.
That you're like, you're surprised, like seeing you and Bobby K at dinner.
Oh yeah, we went out to dinner
in DC.
Yeah, when I was in DC, me and Bobby went out to dinner, and Bobby's like, Bobby's in his 40s, and it's just like, we don't like match like optically. Like, it's just, but it's like we were having so much fun just like catching up and like talking about what's been going on, and like same thing with Mary. Mary's someone that I haven't met in person. The only time I really interacted with her is through WhatsApp and Zoom, and people don't see that. And like, once again, she's an Iranian woman who's in her early 40s, who lives in Toronto, who works for a flooring company. And it's just like, cool, but it's just like, these are people that I really vibe with. Like,
absolutely,
I can spend hours of uninterrupted time with them.
Yes.
So yeah.
You know how, do you ever play that game where like you're in public and you see a group of people or like two people and you're like, I wonder what the relationship is between them?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of my new aspiration.
Yeah.
Is that I want to not make sense optically. You know what I mean? I want my stories to have fascinating, uninterpretable meaning until you get to hear the story.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm pleased with my community. I mean, we're lit over here. We're lit over there.
Well, you say that like something that you like when you go out, you and your friends look like a girl group. Like, you guys all have different aesthetics.
Okay, no. I was going to bring this up in the next episode, but I was sitting here dying to bring it up now.
Bring it up.
Okay. Whenever I go out with people and we all like end up wearing the same colors, I call us like, you know, a girl group or a band, right? But I have this other term that I use when we all go out, very committed to our own personal styles, and we so don't look like we belong. I call ourselves a group project, which is so funny to me. Like, no one laughs as hard as I do about that. But I have these like two friends. One who's like, one wears cheetah print every day, like, you know, leggings, big fake fur coat, like that.
Yeah.
One is like, it's like really edgy, you know, girl. She has like a black hair and a knife tattoo with blood dripping off, and she's wearing all black and stuff. And then there's me, like all in one color, blah blah blah, like masculine, blah, whatever. And we go like get our nails done, and we look like a fucking group project, and it's hilarious. So you can aspire to those things. Yeah. I think that's a beautiful display. I love seeing groups that I don't think make sense optically, because I know there's something juicy going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's great. In conclusion, I hope we've sold you on doing community in a subjective way, because it is an entirely different experience. And you can probably even just feel from our energy talking about this version of it being on this side of the line. Yeah. It's completely different. Those are those emotional indicators that you talk about. Yeah. Any closing thoughts for our pink people, Sydney?
One thing I do want to call out that we have written as the last bullet is that there's a way to develop beyond community. And we call that co-creation, which we have an episode for from last season, episode 10. Yeah, I think once you stop defining your community objectively based on other people's rules, expectations, perspectives, judgments, whatever, you allow for a world that's just so much more magical.
Agreed.
And like so much more fulfilling and so much more colorful, and like you get more ridges in your brain, you know? So I think it's worth it.
At the end of the day, the optics, the aspirations, they're shackles, dude.
Bro.
Like, I feel so much lighter, so much more connected. And I thought I was deeply connected back then. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it's like a absolute joy to participate in the relationships that I'm in now. Oh my gosh. It just it's everything.
Can I tell you a one-liner that just came to mind?
Of course.
Contact does not equal connection.
Period.
Per.
I knew it. I'm catching on.
Oh my gosh.
See, I know when you're gonna say it. That's why when you don't, I'm like, what the heck? Well, there you have it.
There you have
Episode
it,
1 of our first series. Not our first season, but our first series, Subjective Living. I think you have to do the closing stuff, because I'm gonna promise you I don't have it memorized.
If you want to find us on Instagram, you can find us on Instagram at The Color Pink Podcast. You also have an email if you want to like send us an email. It's thecolorpinkpodcast@gmail.com. Very simple. If you would like to leave a review, would love that. Would love you for eternity. I'm not pressuring you, but encouraging you to.
Yeah.
Just let us know your thoughts. Like, we want to know, like, how are you engaging with this content in your life, and like, what do you think about it, and do you have ideas, and like, are there different perspectives that you have? Like, let's start a fucking dialogue. Well, thank you so much, pink people. We love you.
We love you so much.
I love you.
And we will see you next time for an episode on Subjective Living X Appearance.
Her.
Ooh.
Bye.
Bye.